On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, we're talking Thunder playoffs. What are the implications of the NBA play-in tournament for Friday? What are the biggest questions remaining for this Thunder team entering the postseason?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, new member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunderpod. On today's show, we're talking Thunder playoffs. The play-in is tonight. The Thunder will finally have their matchup. Biggest question marks heading into this postseason. Biggest test that they could face with Nick Crain at Crain NBA, Forbes, Thunder on SI, Draft on SI, Uncontested Podcast, Media Luminary, Nick Crain. How you doing today?
I'm just pumped to see you on Sunday. Like, sure, I get to go watch some playoff basketball, but I'll be in the same arena as Rylan Stiles, who every time I come, fans of the show are just coming up, asking for stickers, asking for pictures, shaking his hand. I'll be in the presence of greatness on Sunday, and I ain't talking SGA. I'm talking Rylan Stiles.
You're too kind. You're too kind. I always love listeners jumping out at us, so make sure you do that on Sunday if you're going to be in the arena like Nick and I will for the noon tip-off. Nick, how surprised were you about the noon tip-off ABC slot for the Thunder?
Well, to be honest, I hadn't put a lot of thought into the time or the network carrying the game. You had a prediction that it was going to be a 1 p.m. game and ended up being noon. So in my head, subconsciously, I was expecting Sunday afternoon Thunder basketball. And that's what happened. So was it surprising? No, but that's only because you planted the seed in my head. I think that feels right, though. Like early round playoff game, early in the series of that first round, Sunday afternoon just feels like the opening of playoff basketball. So it's very fitting. It wouldn't feel right for a 1-8 to be like the 8:30 p.m., nighttime game. So I like it.
I already have the Styles Points song of the day picked out for Sunday, so make sure you tune in to Thunder on SI for that. But Nick, it all starts tonight. Really, we've really had to dance around our week of previewing the playoffs because we don't even know the Thunder's opponent yet. It's down to Memphis or Dallas as they will play in the old FedEx Forum tonight to determine who will be the 8th seed in the playoffs. Any leaning in that particular game and what that would mean for a potential Thunder first round series?
The playoffs all about matchups. I think my sentiment on the situation, Memphis is a better, more scary team. They have the theoretical superstar in Ja Morant, though he has injury concerns. He hasn't been great the past couple seasons with all the off-court stuff. But, would it shock you if he had a phenomenal round one? No. They have a top-notch defender in Jaren Jackson Jr. They've got three-point shooting. They've got tertiary stars and Desmond Bane. Like they have the ingredients to be a very good team. So I'd say the Grizzlies are a better, more scary team. But from a matchup standpoint, just with Dallas's size, the confidence they play with, frankly, against the Thunder, like whether you have Kyrie or Luka or Anthony Davis or whoever you are, it's been the role guys that have really torched the Thunder, both in the regular season and the playoffs the past 18 months. And so to answer your question, I don't know who will win tonight. Like, Memphis is better, in my opinion. Dallas matches up better with OKC, but that doesn't matter in this game because they're matching up with the Grizzlies. If I was a betting man in Vegas, I'd say Memphis wins. And I think that's probably better for the Thunder.
It's interesting. I think it'll be a very fun game. I think that the chess matches of this one game sample size will be interesting. Zach Edey really jumps out in this matchup of you're facing Dallas, who has Lively, Gafford, Anthony Davis. The front court depth of the Grizzlies a bit shaky. We know that Jaren Jackson Jr. not exactly a threat on the glass. So a lot's on Zach Edey, who is known for foul trouble. And if he gets into foul trouble, then you're leaning on some of that shaky depth in Memphis in their front court, which could be of grave concern for them in this play-in game. Ja Morant is a game-time decision, officially questionable with that ankle injury that popped up against Golden State, which did not look great. So Memphis is on the ropes. I think that Memphis needs this win to really salvage things optically. You don't want to go from hovering around the 2 seed to out of the playoffs, whereas if Dallas didn't make the playoffs, it would just kind of be fitting for what their season's been since February 1st. So I think that when you look at it, Memphis should be the hungrier team. They should want this a little bit more, as much more as you can than your opponent in a winner-go-home game, and they're at home. All those factors do lean towards Memphis, but I just don't quite trust their front court depth to get this job done at the current time with the external factors of the Ja Morant injury. They've lost 4 rotational players, in the last few weeks, really dating back to the trade deadline, but the blow of Jalen Williams not being healthy is a big one. I lean Memphis pulling it out because I do have concerns about Dallas's table setting, which elevates their role players, and this is a whole new ball game than playing the Sacramento Kings, who don't play a lick of defense. At our media games, you've played better defense than the Kings have.
They don't play a lick of anything in Sacramento, man. It's bad.
It's terrible. And so I feel like you just throw that game out. I think it'll be a very tight game. It's the definition of a coin flip. And I think that the ripple effects from this game are very interesting for the Thunder because either way, Dallas or Memphis, the Thunder's expectation should be to win this series in 5 or less games. But the situations that these two teams can put you in is vastly different. I think that Zach Edey is a non-factor against Oklahoma City, but having to defend Ja Morant and Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. in a 7-game series, I think is more, kind of mirroring your future matchups of what you're going to have to deal with down the line in the playoffs. But Dallas is a very interesting case study where, again, you should win it in 5 games or less. Don't let the PTSD of last season, as both teams are brand new this year, impact your decision with that situation on Sunday and moving forward in that series. If it is Dallas can, though, clog the lane at an exceptional clip and really get the ball out of Shea's hands and J-Dub's hands by doing so and not letting them get comfortable in their spots in the paint, which then puts a lot of pressure on guys like Cason Wallace, guys like Lou Dort, guys like Isaiah Joe to hit their shots on these situations where you funnel the ball to those supporting cast members and out of the hands of your 2 primary scorers. And that, I think, could be big long-term for the Thunder from the sense of just getting those guys experience in big moments in high-stake games. And if you have success in that setting, getting them confidence moving forward in the playoffs, as that's really one of the burning questions about this Thunder team. The 2 things you can point to is they're inexperienced, and that inexperience means that these guys have not had to hit big shots in big moments. They didn't do it very well against Dallas last year. It ended their season. How these guys rebound this year in that kind of area will determine if they can fulfill their lofty goals this year of winning a championship, which is very hard to do no matter who you are. So I think that Dallas would actually present probably a better tune-up and probably a better ability to sharpen your blade than Memphis would in the first round for Oklahoma City.
And if you don't think the Thunder's coaching staff, the strategy team, hasn't thought about that Dallas series from last year, where like I give Jason Kidd credit, I give the Mavericks credit, of course, but their strategy of just packing the paint and forcing outside shooters to hit shots wasn't a complex, crazy thing. And if you think that Daignault and company haven't thought about that for the last year and don't have a lot of tricks up their sleeve, if that's the series, you're mistaken. And I think that's a very different look offensively this year. And I also think the guys step up and hit shots, especially after last year was almost like an anomaly level bad. You're the best 3-point shooting team in the league. And then it was like, nobody can hit threes besides a couple guys. So yeah, I think they're fine either way. Like you said, you can't get caught up in last year's recency bias. It's a different roster on both fronts. The Thunder got better. The Mavericks got worse. I think you bring up very good points.
Yeah, and the Mavericks got worse not only by trading Luka, but losing Kyrie. And with that, you've lost the ability to help your role players. Like the Thunder and Celtics each used the same game plan against the Dallas Mavericks. They each had very, very, very different results against Dallas because those guys didn't end up hitting their open looks. But both teams, Dallas, Oklahoma City and Boston, wanted to funnel shots to PJ and Derrick Jones Jr. and that supporting cast of the Mavericks. And the shots went in against OKC, and you have to tip your cap to PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. to have that sustainable shooting throughout an entire series that led them to a win. But it stems from a Luka and Kyrie series that, while the Thunder did kind of cut them off at the knees of how they are as a scorers, and they did lower them and make them have quote unquote bad series as scores, the ability to pass the rock and set those guys up is very, very much lost whenever you're leaning now on Williams, when you're leaning now on Dinwiddie, when you're leaning now on Jaden Hardy. Like, all these guys in your guard play just should not be able to stand up, should not be able to make those passes, should not be able to even get the ball across half court at times against this suffocating Thunder defense with all of their point of attack defenders that they have, which truly changes the dynamics of everything that Dallas is trying to do. But I do think that their ability to clog the paint would set the Thunder up for future success of seeing that and experiencing that in high pressure moments moving forward. But coming up, Nick, let's talk about the other side of this play-in with the Eastern Conference, which does impact Oklahoma City, and the burning questions heading into the playoffs for OKC. But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at Upwork. Nick, you're going to want to hear this because you have many businesses. You're a media mogul. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find a specialized freelancer in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web design, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands on a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes having a simple hire, an affordable hire for you easy. So go there and check it out today. It's cost-effective growth. Whenever you see that you don't need full-time hiring, Upwork can help you find affordable, top-tier freelancing to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Joining us today is Nick Crain from the Uncontested Podcast, Forbes, and Thunder on SI, as well as Draft on SI, which leads us perfectly into the East play-in, where the Hawks take on the Miami Heat for the right to play the Cleveland Cavaliers. If the Heat win this game, the Thunder will get pick 15 in the 2025 NBA Draft. If the Heat lose this game, the Heat keep their lottery-protected pick, and the Thunder get the Heat's 2026 first-round pick completely unprotected. And as a draft expert, Nick, where do you lean on what's more value? Do you lean with just getting the 15th pick right now in this draft class, or do you lean on, hey, let's roll the dice and see what this 26 draft class can become?
I think that you want the pick this year for a couple of reasons. One, I think this is a strong class, as is next year's class. But the Miami Heat, as amazing as an unprotected pick is, I don't have the data on this. Someone that's listening to this show, send us the data. I don't know the last time the Heat were bad enough to have a really good pick. It's just not the way their franchise operates in a big market. They make big moves. They get big fish in free agency. They make the big trade. I think it's very likely they're better next year than they are this year. As such, I think if the Miami Heat win tonight against the Hawks, it's a good thing for the Thunder. I think the 15th pick has a lot of value. I think that the 15th pick for the Thunder has Liam McNeely written all over it. I think it has Rasheer Fleming written all over it. I think those are both guys, and there's others, of course, that I truly believe could help this Thunder team in the next 2 to 3 years, as they're looking to potentially win additional titles and players are rolling off the roster because they can't be paid or whatever it might be. So I think if you're a Thunder fan, you should be rooting for the Heat tonight over the Hawks. I think the 15th pick has value. And if I was a betting man, I think if the pick conveys to next year, although it's unprotected, I think it'll end up being a worse pick than 15. Obviously, there's draft quality to be discussed. Is the 15th pick in this year's draft better or worse than the next year's draft? Who knows? Like, I think you take pick 15 now, it's basically a lottery pick, and you run with it.
Yeah, so I totally get everything that you were saying. I kind of, by nature, would gamble with it more just because I agree. Pat Riley is the godfather for a reason, and his teams are not bad. His teams are never in the lottery hunt, especially if recent vintages. They're usually always at least play in caliber to where you pretty much be exactly where you are right now. At best, it seems like next year. However, they do not get out from underneath some of the salary cap restraints until the summer of 26. So that does tie his hands a little bit this summer. And more importantly, from a Thunder perspective, while I do really like this 25 draft class, and I think it's a really win-win either way for Oklahoma City to get the pick now or get the pick later, the reason I would say I would be rooting for the Hawks would be to have a couple more transactional windows with this pick, because this is a Thunder team that returns everybody next year as of right now in terms of who's under contract. Everybody is under contract for next season. With that being said, clearly, we won't have to name names right now to bring the vibes down of this whole playoff preview, but there's clearly names on this roster that you feel very comfortable moving on from to make way for a guy like McNeely, like Fleming, like these talented players in this draft class. I mean, that's just the bottom line. It's a business at the end of the day, as much as you love every 18 players on this team, 15 standard contracts on this team. So it's not a bad thing to get the 15th pick, but holding on to that 26th pick just through the whole offseason to make a decision, if you feel like you need to firm up your roster right now, and the trade deadline next year, if that Miami pick is heading to unprecedented territory by Miami standards, this is a Thunder team that will be for sure in their championship window. Well, for sure, the Thunder will for sure be canvassing the league to try to improve their roster, whether there's anything out there or not. Like sometimes you canvass the league and there's nothing out there that we like at this price for what we need. But sometimes there is stuff out there, and that pick could be very valuable to get you over the hump. So the appeal of two different transaction windows opening with that pick in hand versus just the one, which would be the draft day, you'd have to either make a decision to keep the pick or trade it. I think does have a value whenever you look at the two draft classes and say, well, what if the Thunder were at the exact same spot next year as they are this year? I don't know that the drop off in talent, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you do like high school and stuff, so you know everything about these draft classes. I don't think the drop off in talent next year's draft class would be that significant, and I don't think that the Heat can jump up to make it be anything more than like the 15th to 20th pick, which is around the same range that you'd end up getting right now anyway.
Well, that range in general, that honestly, every draft pick 11 or 12 to 24 is the same level of player, and there's a lot of variability in what kind of happens with those picks. I think you bring up a good point with like the quantity of picks and the ability to move that as an asset next year. I just keep going back to the fact that Miami's in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
If it was in the West, whole different story. But in the East, like it's hard to not be in the play-in and at worst be the 12th or 13th pick. So I think it's a win-win for the Thunder. It's a great situation to be in. You're going to get some kind of pick this year, next year that's either usable or tradable, and it's a luxury.
Well, let's talk about 5 burning questions for this postseason without knowing the Thunder's opponent. Number 1, which is really putting you on the spot because we don't know the Thunder's opponent, and you're allowed to qualify this question with if Mavs and if Grizzlies, but maybe you have a blanket answer for either or. Who's your starting 5, Nick, for this Thunder team?
Man, I think in both situations, you should, not that they will, not that you can't disagree, I think you should start double big. Which would mean Chet, Ihart, Shea, Lou, Dub, which is we saw a lot of those starter minutes, especially late in the season. I think from Memphis's point of view, you mentioned Jaren Jackson's rebounding concerns. You mentioned Zach Edey in foul trouble. Between Shea attacking the rim and OKC having 2 7-footers on the floor, I think you essentially can play him off early. Not that he's like this guy you have to play off to win, but you can really set the tone of like, hey, look, the option of your massive 7-4 player is no longer an option because he has 3 fouls in the first 8 minutes of this game. Dallas, I think it's obvious you played double big. You could argue you could go small and try to force them to play your style, which I also agree with, but I think it's a recipe for that series going 5 or 6 instead of a sweep, because if that doesn't work and they dominate early, it's over early. So I would go double big in either scenario for the first round, to be clear.
Yeah, this is for the first round. I think against Dallas, they would go double big. I think that they probably would go double big against Memphis. I think Memphis would open the door for the lineup that I like. I like this lineup no matter what, and that would be Shea, Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, J-Dub, Chet. Just to get you started out, I think that Chet's a bit more comfortable playing as the lone big on the floor, which gets him into a rhythm early, and we've seen how those games, if he catches fire early, can really carry him for 48 minutes. I think that Cason really sets a tone defensively of just hounding matchups and being this spark plug and play finisher as an off-ball player, where he's now attacking off the catch very well, but also he's just an amazing cutter. And like we think of cutting as like explosive backdoor cuts, but he's like an amazing floater in the sense of he floats around the court and finds the dunker spot or finds the short roll where he gets the ball and is able to finish around the basket. Now that helps the Thunder offense as well. And so I just look at even the Mavericks series, and yes, their size is intimidating, but we've highlighted, and everybody highlights, their lack of guard play. If you put out there, Shea and Lou and Cason and J-Dub, how are they going to get the ball to their bigs? How are they going to bring the ball up the floor? And it can just suck the life out of a Dallas team who will be running on fumes. Both these teams will be running on fumes because Dallas has had to go from Sacramento to Memphis to OKC, and both teams will have to play at 8:30 tonight and then noon on Sunday, which is the quickest turnaround you can get in the playoffs because you can't have back-to-backs. So I just would lean tone setting and Chet comfortability in every series and every game. That's not what the Thunder are going to do. That's what I would do. And I think that you've laid out the compelling case of why you'd play double bigs. And so that's the interesting part, and why this storyline in particular, or question in particular, leads off this burning question segment, because there's not a wrong answer on paper. Like logistically, you can look at both options, think them through, and come up with a different answer within 5 minutes. And and then the next 5 minutes, you have another different answer, and you just continue to go back and forth, and eventually you just have to land on something.
An important note, though, is that a good chunk of teams in the league don't have the option, or they're not having the conversation. Yeah. Locked on blank, name the podcast. Most of those teams, guys covering those teams that are in the playoffs, they're just talking about how did our starters match up with their starters. Like the Thunder has the flexibility and the option to go big or small or somewhere in between. That's a humongous advantage. So the fact that we're even having this conversation is a good thing.
Yeah, a lot of tools in the toolbox. Coming up, more burning questions about the Thunder as they enter the playoffs. But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at Monarch Money, check out Monarch Money today, because if you ever checked your bank account and wondered where did all your money go between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you the full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. I love the fact that it's an all-in-one app. You will stop juggling multiple apps. You can get everything at Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan your long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off your first year. That's half off of your first year at Monarch Money when you use code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back on Lockdown Thunder with Nick Crain, Uncontested Podcast, Thunder on SI, Draft Digest, the Draft on SI. Nick, who has to step up on this Thunder team. When you close your eyes and envision big moments of this playoff run and of the Thunder trying to reach their ultimate goal of climbing that mountaintop yet again and winning the West and going to the NBA Finals, who do you envision as key contributors alongside guys like Shea, guys like Chet, guys like J-Dubs? Like outside of those guys, who do you envision stepping up?
Before I give you my answer, I want to say Chet, I think, is a guy that his season has not been highlighted really at all. Like national media, even in the OKC, like he was great to start the season. He missed a huge chunk. He came back. He was fine. Like he had some big games, but he also had some games where it was like, if you didn't know he was the number 2 pick and a potential future star, he was just kind of there. Like no diss on him. There's just some games he was not great. If he is on and playing as well as he can, I think that especially if the Thunder make the finals or even win the finals, we're talking about him as a bona fide top 3 big in the league next year, top 5 big in the league next year. Yes. Like he has the potential to just take his stature in this league to a completely stratospheric level with a strong playoff run. Especially given he wasn't an all-star, he missed a bunch of games. Yeah. Like he has a good opportunity here.
I mean, if he can find consistency after a hip fracture on November 10th, it just shows you like the percentile of athlete, the percentile of player, the percentile of person, the percentile of work ethic that Chet Holmgren is top 1 of 1 if he's able to do that. And if he can't do that, it's like really excusable of just
totally.
That's kind of where it's a gray area of, you know, Chet's like a box of chocolates this year. You don't know what you're going to get because you know he realistically is going to have some inconsistencies due to what he's going through. But man, what if? Like the what if factor of Chet Holmgren being incredible, then it feels like the West is not even a discussion.
Yeah.
If you guarantee Chet's incredible, and he's shown that he still can be post hip injury with that game in Boston, with that game against Denver on ABC. He's shown he can still be that. The Phoenix game, he showed he can still be that post hip injury, and now he's gotten recovery time. He's gotten rest time. Most importantly, he's gotten practice time. This team has not gotten to practice a ton post All-Star break because of the jam-packedness of their schedule, and this week has been really big for them. So Chet says he feels great, and he feels confident, and he feels awesome. So that's going to be a good sign heading into the playoffs. But go ahead with your next guy to watch.
Yeah, I think the guy to watch, Lu Dort. When you think about some of the biggest games in recent history for the Thunder, you know, Big Game Lou is like a nickname on Twitter. Game 7 Lou, like when he is just bombing away from 3, there's been countless times this year where like it's a close game where the Thunder's down and Lou just hits like 2 or 3 threes in a fight. It's a weapon that is under discussed. But on the flip side, he's also a guy that can go on cold streaks. And in the regular season, a cold streak's not bad. It's expected. But in the playoff series, it shines bright. I think Lou is a humongous swing factor. If he has, you know, a 1 of 14 stretch from 3, it wouldn't surprise me. And it would be tough to overcome for the Thunder, despite how many shooters and scorers they have. But if he goes 9 of 14 on a stretch, you're not beating the Thunder. I don't care what the previous names we mentioned are doing. Chet, Shea, J-Dub. If Lu Dort's on a heater from 3, this team is so hard to beat. And I just think that there's countless guys that are X factors, but Lu Dort is just like the guy that if he has a hot streak from 3, and he was Thunder's best 3-point shooter in the regular season, like he's capable of doing so. He could just take this team to a different level.
Yeah, and especially could be like the new villain of fan bases if he's just locking down your best player as he's done all year long, and he's consistently nailing big time threes. By the end of a 7-game series, you're going to hate Lu Dort, which is a good thing. You want opposing teams to hate your players the way that you hate PJ Washington. They don't hate bums, right? They don't hate guys who miss the threes. The opposing fan bases love those guys. You hate PJ Washington because he beats you, and you want teams to hate Lu Dort because he beats them. But question number 3, Jalen Williams. This has been a topic you and I have discussed a lot this season, rightfully so, because his ability to be the number 2 option has been under the microscope and is a very big swing factor of if the Thunder can reach their goals. But Nick, in the last 8 games he's played in, since that hip injury against Denver on the second night of back-to-back, he's returned to the hardwood. And in 8 games, he's averaging 24 points per game with 4.5 rebounds, 4 assists, and over a steal per game in that setting, with 52% shooting from the floor and 39% shooting from 3. And oh yeah, by the way, those numbers, those gaudy numbers that prove to you he's all-star worthy, and you couple that with what Shea's output is and prove to you that he is a secondary option, that's including a 16-point night in a blowout loss against LA. And it's still that high, and it's still that efficient, it's still that good. Has J-Dub made you more confident in his ability to be enough of a number 2 option for this team to achieve its goals?
Yeah, I believe so. And the pressure for him to be number 2 is certainly there. Like, every great team needs a number 2, but he's also insulated by enough complementary pieces that even if he had his season average of 20 or 21 or 22, it doesn't have to be 24, 26, 28 in the playoffs. If he can just give you 20 a night consistently, that is plenty as a number 2, especially with how we think Shea can play. If J-Dub can give you 20 a night with, high assist numbers like we've seen and be a versatile defender, you cannot complain a bit about J-Dub.
Now, Nick, here's the bracket. The Thunder have to go through either Memphis or Dallas, and then the winner of Denver and the Clippers to get to the West Finals. On the other side of the bracket is the Lakers, Timberwolves, and Rockets. Do you feel like the bracket broke cleanly for the number 1 seed?
I think it's a great setup. A great setup. I think that the Warriors beat the Rockets. I think that the Lakers beat the Wolves, and it's going to be probably Lakers Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. Denver's the one that just, you never know. But when you think about all the teams that Thunder has struggled against this year, especially of late, Minnesota around the trade deadline, or around the All-Star weekend, and then LA showed some stuff more recently. I think you feel really good. Like, could there be like one switcheroo that makes it a little bit better? Probably. But largely, I'm to the point now, seeing the bracket, a trip to the Western Conference Finals should be a minimum expectation.
I agree, because you look at this and it's never going to be easy, right? You're going to have to go through wars to win a championship. It's why it's so hard. But the Thunder have to just take care of business in the first round. And if they don't, then it's just a complete disaster. So like, there's no point to even talk about the first round. They need to win by 5 or 6, in 5 or 4 games. Now, in the second round, they are going to have a tough test, either the Clippers or Denver. They've really handled the Clippers this year. And with Denver, they do have the best player in the world, which is always threatening. But that's one test to just get to the West Finals. It's one test in your way. And if you're as good as your record says you are, and the stats say you are, and we say you are, you've got to be able to take down one big test. Because you look at the other side, like the Lakers and Timberwolves, I favor the Lakers. That's no walk in the park. The Denver Clippers series, that's no walk in the park. For the Warriors to get through Houston and upset the Rockets, that's especially no walk in the park, because you're going to get beat, battered, and bruised on your way to round 2 if you even survive round 1 against their tough defense. So the Thunder for sure have the easiest path in the Western Conference, as easy of a path as you can possibly have in a conference this good, and they've got to take advantage of it, because what is promised to you, and let's not save me the doomsdays in the comments of the what ifs. What's promised to you is this is a wide open window for this team, who's all under contract next year, and who has the flexibility and the ability and will pay this core, and will have this core for another decade. That's promised to you. What's not promised to you is this path right here. What's not promised to you is the ability to win this many games and have the bracket break this way, because we saw heading into that final day all the different options that could have been the 4-5 game. All the different options, even this week, if the Warriors would have lost to the Grizzlies and then had to play the Thunder round 1, that makes your round 1 a lot tougher. Like, it's not promised to ever break this way again, and to only have one formidable foe in your way of a West Finals berth, you have to take care of business. So I do think that the bracket broke cleanly for them. Give me one stat, one trendy stat, whether it's 3-point percentage or turnovers, just one stat that you're looking for to really measure, or what you would lean on and say, I think if the Thunder do this really well, then they've had a really good series, and it probably is indicative of them winning a series?
I think it is field goal attempts relative to their opponent. That's something the Thunder have been really good at this year because they forced a lot of turnovers. So it's maybe a byproduct. Maybe turnovers is the real answer, but field goal attempts. Game slows down a bit in the playoffs. There's less transition. There's a little bit more half court ISO. Big players at big shots. So if you can maintain a wide margin of field goal attempts relative to your opponent, it gives you the ability to shoot a lower percentage but still score as many points. And defense is largely a reason you can do that. And if you can do that in the playoffs, you will have a lot of success. So I'm straight up looking at how many shots did the Thunder take, how many shots did their opponents take, and usually if the delta's halfway decent, the Thunder probably wins.
I would agree with that. I would say 3-point percentage is mine. If the Thunder have shot better than their opponents from three, they're going to win that series, I really believe. Turnover is another one. If the Thunder can continue to force these high turnover numbers from opponents like they have this season, that's going to help the possession battle that you're talking about, the shot attempt battle that you're talking about, which ties into yours. But Nick, rapid fire, give me the path. What do you see when you look into your crystal ball that the Thunder will go through in this playoff? When will it end? Who will they get through? What's going to happen?
Grizzlies win. Nuggets win. Lakers win.
Oh.
Celtics lose in 7.
Celtics
but
in
then
7.
They win it the
Thunder?
next year.
Okay. You have a bonus prediction.
Yeah.
Going to win it the next year. Celtics in 7. But if the Thunder make the NBA Finals, there's going to be no complaints in their second ever playoff run. Nick, thanks for joining us. Go check him out at Forbes. Check him out. Uncontested Podcast, Thunder on SI, Draft on SI. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.